back to another D.K.K.S. movie breakdown. My name is Charlie Cannon.
My name's Ian F. Scott.
And we are D.K.K.S. Productions. Keaton, could you please, for the love of God, enlighten our millions of viewers as to what we will be breaking down today?
We are breaking down one of the all-time best action movies ever made, everybody's favorite 2014 movie, John Wick.
Not a good action movie at all, as we can all agree. Would you agree with that, Keaton?
I would absolutely agree with that. I think it sucks.
Yeah. Let's cut it out. This movie is freaking awesome. We've been pumped to review this for a while. As soon as I decided that we were doing John Wick for this one, I couldn't wait to watch it again. Couldn't wait to talk about it. And we may even have a little surprise first reaction guest appearance. Don't get too excited. Trust me. But, yeah. I'm ready to hop into this thing. You ready to hop into this bad boy?
Let's make like a bunny and get to hopping. So, what we are going to do, as always, we are going to grab a drink, grab a cigar, and buckle the F up, Buttercup.
Alright, so as per usual, we're about to get into what the drinkage is and what the smokage is. But before that, man, I gotta say, that is a really fire hat you're rocking today.
Oh, I appreciate it, but it's actually not a fire hat. This is a juicy hat. Yes, you heard correctly. Juicy hat. They make juicy teas in addition to juicy hats.
And juicy koozies and a lot of other juicy products. Once again, we would like to plug Miss Linda Tracy, the runner of Juicy Teas LLC. We're going to put the Instagram in this one again. You know, she's been hooking us up with some pretty fire stuff. So support her because she supports us.
Absolutely. So if you need any juicy apparel, hit her up. Juicy Teas LLC. We'll put a link down in the description. Get to it. What the fuck are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you waiting for? So, Keizer, what are we drinking today?
Keaton, I am glad you asked. Today we will be drinking Bird Dog strawberry flavored whiskey.
Bird Dog was one of my favorite shows as a kid.
I think you're thinking about Cat Dog.
Nope.
Oh, what the fuck channel were you watching? We've tried Bird Dog before because my roommate Tyler's gotten the peach flavored. Never tried strawberry. Thought it was kind of fitting because, you know, there's a dog. So, kind of relates to the movie. So, I'm excited to, you know, try that flavor out.
Let's do it.
What are we puffing on today, Keaton?
I'm glad you asked. Today we are going to be puffing on, we are throwing it back to the Tatianas, which we smoked, I believe that was for the Goonies? Perhaps, maybe
Perhaps.
Princess Bride.
Perhaps
It was
Baby
some-
Driver, Superman.
That's all
Usual
we smoked.
suspects.
No, we smoked this some point recently, but it is the cinnamon-tipped flavored cigars that we are puffing on tonight.
Yep.
And I'm really excited about it because I like flavor-tipped cigars. I like cinnamon. It's a natural marriage.
True.
So,
Cinnamon anything is delicious.
Absolutely.
And we can all agree on that.
Especially
In this time,
cinnamon whiskey.
no, we can't agree on that. All right, speaking of whiskey, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right, the inaugural poppage. Oh, this is going to be a tough one.
Quiz never.
Don't tell me what. My hands are very slippery. I put on bug spray. You don't care, but I'm just
Nice.
kind of underwhelming. Let's give this a shot. Bad habits. All right. So without further ado, let's give it a little whiff.
Yeah. I can definitely smell the strawberry.
Yeah,
That's
that-
really the only thing I can
mhm.
smell.
Makes me want a strawberry Pop-Tart.
Makes me want some strawberry shortcake.
All right. So, shall we
Let's do it.
raise a toast to John Wick?
John Wick.
Wow.
Yeah, that was sweet as fuck.
I'm waiting. I know what's gonna. Yeah, it is. The post burn. I knew it was coming too. But
I'm a little warm. I wouldn't say
Yeah.
it's burning. Not like the.
It's not like the
What do we have last week? It was the high
noon.
The high west.
high noon of the Old West or whatever.
With the ride.
It was
from
nasty.
Park City, Utah, it was not good.
I'm a little bit more excited to be sipping on this. I would have got some Coke to mix it with, but I know this man right here, he don't drink soda. So instead, we're just gonna be sipping away.
Getting drunker than a shit.
So
I'm already there, as you can probably tell.
Drunker than a shit. Stick around for the newest installment of two 24-year-old drunk dudes rambling about movies they like. Alright, so we're going to talk about acting a little bit. Now, I know what you're thinking. Who the hell is this ugly fool between Keaton and Kaiser? Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody?
My name...
Nobody cares.
No.
Moving on.
My name is Briar. I am the roommate's good old Charlie over here. The K.S. in this...
equation.
In the equation. And then also, I kind of know this guy over here, the D.K. in the equation, I guess. I kind of... maybe had some classes with them in college, but overall, we just kind of shit-talk them at night while we're here.
Yep, when he's not around. And when he's around, it's all smiles.
And that's
just like
pretty much when he and I are hanging out, we just shit-talk him.
Mm-hmm.
And when you and I are hanging out, we just shit-talk him.
Yeah.
You what? It was all fun and games until that last part. All right, now let's introduce the real star, of course, Miss Woola.
For her returning appearance, I guess.
She's been on here before a couple times.
Look.
Anyway, we're going to talk about acting, so let's go ahead and hop into it. First of all, this was Briar's first time seeing the movie, despite us trying to show it to him for years and years and years and years. We're glad to have finally showed him this film. Now, I'm going to talk about acting a little bit. First of all, I want to talk about three actors individually. I want to talk about Willem Dafoe as Marcus to start off. Marcus doesn't have like this incredibly in-depth role. Not that any characters in this movie have a lot of depth to him, which, kind of makes it what it is. But this character mainly kind of just shows up as a deus ex machina throughout the film. Whenever John's in a tight spot, this is his buddy that's looking out for him. You first see him at the funeral. He's the only one that comes and shows his condolences, so you know right away they have this good relationship. And I think you get a sense about, you can just tell this dude's a badass. Not just from his marksmanship skills, but from any scene that he's in. Especially the end when he walks in and he sees these guys waiting for him and he just turns around and he's like, alright, let's get on with this. Whatever the fuck this is. And then he goes out on his own terms. Spoilers, by the way. We'll put in a little preemptive warning.
If you hadn't picked up on the fact that we're doing a movie breakdown and there might maybe
spoilers.
possibly be some spoilers in there, you got bigger problems.
Yeah.
We're going to try to avoid spoiling the other two right now just because he hasn't seen them yet.
Ooh,
But when the time comes for that, you better be ready because spoilers are coming with it. Now, Willem Dafoe did a great job at portraying that. I want to talk about Keanu Reeves as John Wick, obviously. Now, this is a role I don't think could have been played by anybody else. And I want to go ahead and say, I don't think Keanu Reeves is the best actor by any means.
No,
in fact,
without a doubt.
I think he's one of the worst actors to have made it to the status that he's at.
Yeah.
Mainly just, I don't know how to describe his style of acting besides just, whoa. So, that one word kind of narrows it down. But as a character who doesn't have many dramatic moments, doesn't have many moments that require a lot of, a range of emotions besides a few scenes, which I do want to talk about, he is John Wick. When you think about the Boogeyman, when you think about Baba Yaga, you think about Keanu Reeves because he's sort of become iconic in this role. I remember when we first saw it. When I first saw the trailer for it, I think we were like, "This looks dumb."
We both were sitting in the theater. We were like,
dude, Keanu Reeves cannot act at all." Because we kept seeing the part in the trailer like, "People keep asking if I'm back. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back." And I was like, "All right, pass." But then we saw it, and I was like, "I have a feeling this is going to be like a cult film. Like this is going to have a huge following." And I wouldn't even know like. The size that it has gotten, I wouldn't even know if I consider it cult level anymore. This has become a really big success in the two films that follow it as well. Now I want to talk about Michael Nyqvist as Vigo, who's the main villain in this movie. I mentioned to him last night, they're Russian. That's where they speak, right? Yeah. I mentioned, I was like, I don't know what accent this guy's going for. Because it kind of seems like it's all over the place, but also at the same time, I kind of like it, and it doesn't bother me by any means. And I think that his performance as Vigo is one of the most intriguing performances in the entire film. And he really comes across as a guy that you don't want to mess with, because he can mess you up in any way possible. He has a ton of people under his belt. He has a ton of, he's strong as hell. You see that from the first scene when he punches his son, Theon, from Game of Thrones, and makes him throw up. So I also wanted to save him for last, because he passed away a couple years ago from lung cancer, and I didn't really see him in much anything else. I know that you mentioned he was in the original Girl with the Dragon Tattoo trilogy, but, cheers to him real quick,
He's
because...
also in Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
Oh, he is in Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, so I have seen him in something else. Either way, cheers to you, and thanks for a great performance. He didn't get the memo.
Yeah. Because we didn't tell him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if he would have watched the other videos, he would have known, but it's...
I get an in-depth analysis, but just being on the other side of the door.
Yeah, he hears us screaming for hours out here. So yeah, that's the main acting things I wanted to talk about. I do want to touch on a few moments, but overall,
Please.
How do you guys feel about the acting in this film? Yeah, let's get the first impression on the acting in this film.
I mean, I will thoroughly agree when I think of Keanu Reeves, I don't think of amazing show-stopping
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, Oscar performance, and honestly, he's gotten this weird resurgence as of late. Maybe that's because of John Wick 3. He did that. He played the voice, or he gave the
Duke
voice
Kaboom.
Duke Kaboom for Toy
Canada's
Story.
favorite stuntman.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
So he's had this recent resurgence. But I mean, I actually funny enough, I got this introduction to Keanu Reeves by watching this movie called Hardball, and that was where he played this character who he was a gambler and he lived in Chicago and all that kind of stuff, and then he takes on this youth baseball team and changes his whole life around. But other than that, but I definitely think, we were talking about earlier about how, not a lot of the characters have, an in-depth, backstory and stuff, but I feel he does.
I would agree with that, yeah, because one of the moments I wanted to touch on is when he first receives the dog at the beginning of the film, and he gets this note from his wife, and it's the only time in his entire catalog of films that he shows an emotion besides... And but the emotion that he brings in that scene when he's reading this letter from his wife, it's heartbreaking, and you really buy that. Yeah, you really buy that this is a guy who doesn't show vulnerability ever. So this is a moment he's like, I'll give myself a few seconds. He breaks down, he's back at it. He takes the dog, but that shows how much this moment and this dog means to him.
Yeah, because throughout the entire film, people keep on saying it's just a fucking dog, and he's like, it's not just it's you can tell in his face that he's showing why it's not.
It was his
just
chance
a
to
dog.
mourn alone.
Yeah, and then especially at the end of the film, that is why he literally walks away with another dog. You know what I'm saying? So.
Exactly.
But I definitely think in this specifically or this specific circumstance in this movie, I think he definitely does a very good job at embodying the character itself and kind of giving us that feeling that everyone wants. That's a reason why there's 3 movies, because if he wasn't doing a good job in the first one, there probably would be other 2.
I agree.
Yeah.
Keaton?
Okay, so Keanu Reeves definitely is not when it comes to acting and saying lines and adding verbs and tactics to dialogue, no, he is not going to win any Oscars.
Don't put him in any Shakespeare movies.
Yeah, for real.
Again.
Please.
Or any Dracula movies.
Again.
But my respect for him as an actor went through the fucking roof of this movie, because there is something to be said with all the combat, which we will get into.
Definitely.
But I'm very proud of this, but I'm recommended in stage combat, unarmed stage combat. But
By who?
Myself. No. And acting out fights, as you know, is incredibly difficult. But to do it on the level that they do it on,
It's ridiculous.
Is it's unimaginable. I mean, it's so technical. Everything has to be split-second timing. Everything has to be perfect. Otherwise, especially on camera, the camera's going to pick up on if it looks bad, and you're going to have to redo it. So the fact that it's done incredibly well in every single fight scene, you have to act it out. There is a lot of acting that goes into it.
Yeah.
You have to, you have to sell the hits that you take. You have to sell the hits that you give, and later, after the fight's over, you have to sell the pain that you're in.
Yeah.
So And John, I think Keanu Reeves does a killer job.
He seems
bring that across on screen.
He seems like a guy that's actually been stabbed before. When you see him, and he's like sitting, he's like, and just I'm not gonna even try and reenact it.
But I think also like you there is like something to say about someone who's making you believe that they are literally the most dangerous man on the planet. Like that's what they talk about that entire time. I think because it also gives you some backdrop or some background on this character too when he's talking to his son, Theon.
Right.
And he's telling him, he's like, you don't understand who you messed with. I'm
Right.
not mad at. I'm not. I think he says, I'm not mad at what you did. It's who you did it to.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think like he says like literally it's like he's the most he's not the boogeyman. He's the guy who was sent to kill the boogeyman. So it's like that shows you like, hey, this guy's the most badass guy on like the faces of Earth.
Yep.
And like he sells that very very well. And like what you're saying about like how like everything is like very specific. I mean, it's like a dance. It's like that's really and you have to make it very very specific and key.
You also have to have complete trust in your partner.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even though you're like not doing a full force, if you actually hit someone, it's gonna fucking hurt.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't
Trust
matter
me,
how.
I've done many choreographed fights with
He's
this
lying
guy.
to you. He's
I've
lying
had-
to you.
I've had-
He's lying! Don't listen to him!
This man has busted my lip open so many times.
I have not busted his lip open. Maybe once.
Maybe
Maybe
twice.
twice.
Okay, 86 times.
Maybe he's going to right after we cut. I want to kind of go back to what you just said a second ago. I feel like a lot of movies do this thing where they have characters where they write a lot of other characters talking about how badass this one character is. And like, so a lot of the movie is just people hyping this guy up and like, oh, you don't want to mess with him, like he's crazy. But you hardly ever see that in the movie. This is a movie where they not only they build it up, and that's what they show in the trailer a lot, but then they deliver the amount of training, and we've seen videos behind the scenes that Keanu Reeves went through to get ready physically for this role is absolutely unreal. I want to go through some training like that. I think
he trained for every day for 8 hours a day for 4 months with weapons and martial arts. That's dedication.
That's
I mean, it's not like he just showed up to rehearsal, learned how to throw a few punches, and was like, all right, you good. See you on the day of filming. He underwent like almost half a year of conditioning and like conditioning and training for this. So I mean his training is through the roof, and it really comes across on camera. But also, kind of going off of what you were saying about they hype this character up so much, they tell you he did this, he did that. I saw this guy do this. You don't really get a whole lot of that with John Wick's backstory. You get one, maybe two things that he did in the past, like killing 3 guys in a bar with a pencil. With the fucking pencil. And, like, really, that's it. Otherwise, they just say, this guy laid a foundation of what we are now.
Yeah, and you get a lot of...
It's like the lack of explanation that makes it so intriguing.
Yeah.
Like the lines, like... It's the simple things, like when Theon rolls up into the auto shop.
I love how
we're kind of doing it.
I can't remember. I know he has a name.
Alfie?
His name, the actor's name is Alfie.
Okay.
Yeah.
But everyone will know that.
Theon Greyjoy.
They'll know who we're talking about.
From Game of Thrones.
Yeah. He rolls into the auto shop and he's like, "Who'd you steal this car from?" He's like, "Just this is really did a number on this dog too." And he's like, "Oh," he did. And he punches him. And then later when Vigo calls me, he goes, "I heard you struck my son."
Yes, sir. I did.
Can I ask why?
Well, because he stole John Wick's car and killed his dog.
Oh.
It's so well known in this world of, in like this underworld crime scene of who John Wick is.
Yeah.
So holy shit, like this guy really is badass. From a guy who works on cars to know how badass he is, to like the boss being scared of him and being totally okay that the guy who works on cars struck his son because of it.
Yep. And he even said like, he's like, he'll understand. Your dad's gonna understand why I did this.
You know what Vigo likes and doesn't like. Tell him something he'll understand.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to like stay in it too long, but I just want to go back to Vigo real quick. Because he does this thing where whenever he's around other people and he's clearly in charge in the room, whether it's his son, whether it's the Mayhem Allstate insurance guy.
Dean Winter, I think is the actor's name.
Dean Winter. That is his name because he's in Rescue Me Too. But he's always demanding this present. Whenever he's alone, though, you see these moments where he's just like, "Oh my god, I am so screwed."
Yeah.
I think he like rolls a joint near the end.
Yeah,
he's just
a lot
saying,
of-
like,
There's a lot of levels and dimensions.
That's
to the guy's
after he
character.
sends John Wick to
To kill
basically
his-
tell exactly where his son is. So like, yeah, it's
yeah. So for the time being, so we don't spend 4.5 hours talking about the acting in this film, which I didn't think we'd spend that long talking about acting in the first place, but with a film like John Wick, but I mean, it needed to be talked about.
Another thing I want to say, Willem Dafoe I feel like very underrated actor.
Oh,
like,
definitely.
Like, very, because I mean, everything I've ever seen him in, from
Yeah.
Green Goblin
Yeah.
and like the Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire,
Yep.
and up to this are just the Boondock Saints, and
Which, when we get to that,
Yeah.
we will talk about Willem
Yeah.
for hours and hours.
because
Yeah,
and hours.
exactly.
the best parts
It
of
might
the
just be a Willem Dafoe video,
Yeah.
honestly. I also got to point out, has that man aged a year since the Boondock
no, he
Saints?
looks the same.
No, it's
No.
crazy. He's like shredded too. What? Shout out to Willem Dafoe. Shout out
You're
to
the fucking man, dude.
Yes.
Got some killer dimples.
Buzz. All right. So for now, let's raise a toast to all the fine actors that played a part in this film, making it what it is. We appreciate you. We appreciate all the hard work that you put in. Cheers. Boom.
I got it that time. See it? All right.
Did I already pour myself
fucking
another drink?
like leaking
Falling
tobacco
apart.
leaves into my mouth by the fucking
Yeah.
gallonful. I want you to keep that in the goddamn video.
Oh, good.
Asshole. Okay, everybody, we're gonna chat a little bit about the directing of this movie, and before I get into like the actual direction, I kind of want to talk about the directors themselves, because both of them are not necessarily directors by.
I just had like the whole cigar just shot a load into my mouth with that last pull.
So the directors themselves are not really directors by like profession. They just happen to direct this movie. They are actually stuntmen by, that's what they have made a living doing. Their stunt catalog is through the roof. They've worked on hundreds and hundreds of big movies. Chad Stahelski, who is credited as the director of this movie, he was actually Keanu Reeves' stuntman in The Matrix and in Constantine. So he's worked with Keanu Reeves very, very closely over the years, and I imagine they're probably really good friends, especially since he chose him as, you know, the main character of this movie. David Leitch has also done a lot of stunt work. He couldn't get a directing credit because SAG wouldn't allow two directors on this movie, because they rarely do. So Chad Stahelski and David Leitch broke it up. Chad Stahelski got director, David Leitch got producer. But let me just read you some of their catalog real quick. Okay, David Leitch directed Atomic Blonde, which I think is not like the best movie in the world, but the action is through the roof. Charlize Theron absolutely kills it.
Badass.
I remember being pretty underwhelmed with the story of the movie, but the action was exactly what I wanted. And I remember even thinking while watching, it's like, this is like the female version of John Wick. This is badass. So that's why I think the director had a really big part in playing in that. David Leitch did stunts for 300, also with Chad Stahelski.
There's action in that movie?
No.
Never heard of it.
And you're going to like this one, Kaiser. He was the stunt double for V in V for Vendetta.
I don't like that.
David Leitch was the stunt double for Brad Pitt and Troy, as well as Ocean's 11. He did stunts for The Matrix. He was also Brad Pitt's stunt double for Fight Club, a movie no one's ever heard of, and I actually really can't talk about.
Yeah, that's the first rule.
Who's Brad Pitt?
And the second. Okay, and Chad Stahelski did utility stunts for Iron Man 2. He was the assistant fight choreographer for 300. He was the stunt double for Brandon Lee in The Crow, but only in the reshoots. And I think that's because Brandon Lee was killed during shooting of the movie, so that might be why. Also, he was the action coordinator for X-Men Origins Wolverine. So, they have some pretty, they know what the fuck they're doing. And that really plays a big part in why this movie looks so good. Because if you watch the movie, you'll notice that the camera is always very pulled back from the action, as opposed to movies like Batman Begins, where during the fight scenes the camera's like in the middle of the fight. It's very shaky, and honestly doesn't really look that good because you can't see what the fuck's going on in the fight. In John Wick, you see every single punch, every single kick, every single little minute detail in every fight, because these guys who are stuntmen for a living know everything about fighting,
including how to film it.
And that's why the fights in this movie, because I would say that there's never been, besides the Raid movies, no, I'd say that this movie is redefined the action genre.
I think that's why it has had such an impact on like film in general, you know, because before this, the only film I can think of that had been made that had action on a caliber, like a level sort of like this, was The Raid, and this was more accessible to a mainstream audience, and I think that's why it had such an impact.
Yeah, for sure. But God damn.
Hey, real quick, we're struggling so hard with these cigars right now.
Yeah, shout out to not Tatiana Cigars, because I don't know what the fuck your rappers are doing or what the fuck Tatiana's doing, but it ain't working. All right, it ain't working for you. Change it up. Do something better, please. Anyway, yeah. So because they know exactly what they're doing when it comes to fights, and since fighting and combat is such a the biggest driving force of this movie, I could not think of anyone better to direct it than two stuntmen who have worked together for years and years and know each other's styles and have a rapport with each other and can bounce ideas off of one another and just have everything stick, because it's just wonderful. And honestly, I don't really even care about like the quality of the acting in the movie when it comes to like dialogue or emotional stuff or whatever, because that's not what you watch John Wick for. You watch John Wick to watch John Wick kick the shit out of people.
But I do want to point out, it's not kind of like one of those Fast and Furious, like turn your brain off and just sit back like, they beat each other up. Those movies are a bit extreme. No disrespect to those. But this movie, everything seems realistic. Even John Wick, like when he comes back, he's a little rusty. They even mentioned that at one point. So he's not like this invincible monster. When you're taking on 20 dudes, you're going to take a little bit of damage no matter what. I feel like that's what a lot of other action movies miss, what this movie kind of sticks with. I mean, the man almost dies at the end. The movie starts at the end with him almost dying. He has to fix himself up. So I think that they did a great job clearly with the action, and I think it did define how action is filmed these days. But I think at the same time, they still produced a quality film that without the action would still be good. But the way the action was filmed and the fluidity within the team of filmmakers that made it, the directors, the cinematographers, the editors, all that. We'll get more into that in a couple minutes, but I think it all came together really, really nicely, and it created this, in my opinion, modern day action masterpiece.
For sure.
I think what you just said about because isn't there a lot? I swear I've only seen this movie once. I just feel like I'm remembering you guys are bringing up like certain moments that I'm thinking like, oh, this is a line that I remember in the movie that like talked about that. You said that like he's not this invincible because he's a little rusty.
When he's meeting with what's his name? The guy Winston?
Yeah, and he says, I thought you were hired to do the beatings, not get them. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And he says
good on you, man.
Yeah, see. But yeah, no, I definitely think the action in the film, and I want to state out that these guys are action aficionados, and they always want to show me every different action film that they can.
True.
And
we like action.
I grew up never been like the biggest like action fan, but I will say that usually when you guys show me an action film, it is actually pretty badass. And so I want to let everyone know, Kingsman coming soon, because guess what? That's good. Kick-Ass coming soon.
True. He's not wrong about that.
Like those are movies
exactly.
Pretty soon.
But this actually really holds up. I mean, like you said, I think that the action in this film is a whole different level on most action films, because it shows very minute details. It is focused. It's like a love letter to like I think stunt like work. I think it's
for
like
sure.
Like showing like, hey, there is an art form to this whole. Like stunt choreography, this these gunfights, these just fist fights. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it literally created its own sort of martial art
Yeah,
with that
for
expression.
sure.
Exactly.
And I think
also,
yeah.
really quick to the Academy, please, for the love of Jesus Christ himself, make like best stunt performer and best stunt choreography and coordination a fucking category in the Oscars, please.
Yeah,
Like, you're seriously missing out on a whole realm of filmmaking that it's really unfair. And that is a genuine me feeling.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you feel that
Oh,
way.
I definitely.
Yeah.
I learned.
You're snubbing a whole bunch of really talented people over and over and over again, not even recognizing them, not even giving them the chance to be recognized. And that goes for a lot of things, not just stunt work.
Definitely.
But,
I mean,
really open up your horizons, please.
the Oscars have a lot to work on. That's
For
why I
sure.
gave up on them a few years ago. If you're looking for really good awards and for really good rankings and movies at the end of the year, go watch Jeremy Jahns on YouTube. That man has it down packed. I also want to point out that I think I've always thought it was really cool that the idea of a stunt man for somebody coming back later in their career and recruiting this person to star in a film that they're directing that requires a ton of stunt work, I think that's just incredibly awesome. And the fact that Keanu Reeves, if not all of it, did almost every single stunt in this film.
Yeah, he did.
And there's a lot of practical.
I don't know if he did every single stunt, but he did at least 90%. And because you can see it. 'Cause it's all like you can see it's actually him.
Yeah.
Because they didn't, you know.
You said like the shots
It's
are always
all pulled back so you can see
yeah.
everything.
Which is
Whereas with stuntmen, usually if you like take out the main actor and put in a stuntman, it's going to be in a position where you can't see their face,
like the back of their head
Yeah, it's
or
gonna
something
be-
like that.
And I also mean this as testament to the cinematographer, which we'll get to in a second. But if you have a lot of action in a film with the lead actor doing most of his stunts and the audience can't tell it is the lead actor doing most of his stunts, it's kind of a waste.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we'll get to that in a second. But for now, shall we raise a toast?
Oh, so this is what you guys do
To
after.
Chad Stahelski and David Leitch, God bless you for bringing us the John Wick trilogy and soon to be 5 parts?
I think it's 5. Yeah.
5-part movie.
Yep. Beautiful. So sadly, we've lost Wula. Unsadly, she ain't gonna be whining
She
no
has
more.
also died of lung cancer.
Oh!
Alright, so we've already kind of touched on cinematography a tad bit, but we're going to go into a little bit more. Jonathan Sela, or Sela, or however you pronounce it, he's the cinematographer of this film. You know, his catalog isn't that extensive. We have films like Law Abiding Citizen, Atomic Blonde, which you discussed was directed by the same director as this. Yes, sir. And Hobbs and Shaw, Fast and Furious movies. So this guy knows his action movies with that kind of catalog. I think he did The Omen as well in 2006. Not the most extensive catalog, but good lord, like this man delivers in this film, doesn't he?
Sure.
You know, we've talked about the action a lot in this film. I kind of touched on how if you have your lead actor doing most of his stunts, you want to be able to see it's the lead actor doing most of the stunts. It adds a certain level of realism to this. And I feel like the collaboration he had with the director of this film, it was so seamless that they were able to film these scenes that are incredibly difficult to create shot lists for, to plan out. It seems like they were able to do it very effortlessly. And it came across that the final product is, of course, a groundbreaking action film. But the base of the film are the action scenes themselves.
Yeah, and we've said before in The Princess Bride and in Baby Driver, but we said before that the cinematographer and the director, or in this case directors, have to have a very, very tight relationship and very close collaboration. Otherwise, there's going to be miscommunication and it's not going to turn out the way anyone wants it, and it's going to suffer. So because you said he was a cinematographer for Atomic Blonde, you know, obviously these guys have all worked together and all trust each other to bring to life exactly what they want. So there's something to be said for the workplace relationship, I guess.
Yeah, they probably had a really good working relationship,
and they're
as
probably
well as
like
like
really
a
good
personal
friends in real
relationship
life
as well.
too,
Yeah.
not just out on a film set, but like I'd imagine those are the guys that get together and hang out.
And I do want to say this is the only film that he was cinematographer on, and
He wasn't
that's
for John Wick 2 or Drake?
no, not that I saw. Which is not to discredit the cinematographers for those films because they're elite as well.
Yeah, just as
but I feel like he could have definitely delivered on those two, just with the skill showcase that he put on display for us in this. First reactions to the cinematography.
I really think very specifically what I think about when I think about like the overall like greatness of the cinematography, or like what like pops out to me is the scene where they're like in the club.
Yep.
That's like the basement attic. All those different.
circle.
There's so
Okay.
many different shots, and like the lighting in that is
Yep.
so beautiful. But I think that there are shots where it's like you can see where it's like John Wick's POV, where he's like looking through and you can see Theon in like the hot tub and
Yeah.
everything like that. And then there's those shots where it's like you can see the bad guy, I guess, because it's just a random bad guy, and then him like on both sides of the wall.
Oh, and he shoots
And
through
he
the wall.
I like
yeah.
favorite
Where he, like,
moment.
ducks down,
Does the shoot like yeah, exactly. I think like those very specific shots, like that whole sequence of shots, like literally
That
I
whole
think
scene in that club.
that, and that's what I think that could be a standalone moment and literally just itself would be really
yeah.
well renowned. Like you get a lot of praise for it.
Gee, I cannot wait for you to watch John Wick 2, man. There's a rave
Yeah.
sequence that is
Oh,
just
is it? Yeah, so
absolutely
and that,
nuts.
and that I feel like that overall, like I mean, and like you're saying though, with like a director and like cinematographer having to have a good relation, because I feel like the director's job is to overall see the overall view and feeling and perception of what this film is supposed to be, right? Where the cinematographer has to capture that essence. You know what I'm saying? And
exactly.
I think like a lot of people I feel like might discredit like the cinematographer like
Too
position
often.
because it's like, oh, what are you doing? Just holding the camera, or are you just like looking to see whatever?
Right.
I mean, like what it looks like. But I feel like they had that sway. They were talking to the director like, hey, I think like if you frame it in this position,
Collaboration.
yeah, exactly, collaboration. Like it's if you frame it in this position, it's going to give off a different feel if you frame it this. Like just a slight tilt of the head can always give a different view, or
or a different movement than
Different
what was
movement.
originally planned by the
Exactly.
director. The director's like, yeah, that works. Cinematographers are a huge part of filmmaking, and you said this, there's a lot of improvisation that comes along on a film set. And with this, I'm not quite sure that was necessarily the case because
Yeah.
everything was so technical.
Yeah.
But also, I do believe that
our special
Look
guest
who's
has
come
arrived.
crawling back.
that Jonathan Sella was like brought his own vision to the table and collaborated with the directors for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely a beautiful film to watch aesthetically,
Yeah.
and I think that has a lot to do with him. So for now, shall we
I will say one thing. I also think that
raise
like,
a toast?
Oh, okay.
Good.
But
I got something else.
Yeah, I definitely think that like also just kind of touching on the lighting and stuff. I think it just overall like I think that there's these moments where they're showing John, like especially in the very beginning of the film, maybe even at the ending, where he's kind of in those like down moments, like those like I want to say depressed moments, but in those like
moments where
really
he's alone.
solemn.
where he's alone,
Yeah.
yeah. And even with Vigo, that moment when he's alone, I feel like the lighting and everything that it's capturing,
ambiance.
the ambiance, yes, the aesthetic and everything that you're getting from those shots specifically is you're getting, and that's why cinematography is also like a really good aspect, or is a very important aspect of filmmaking, because not only it just a lot of people are looking and they're looking at whatever they're seeing on the screen, but it also is capturing an essence. You know what I'm saying? It's capturing like, I'm showing you this character alone.
Right.
I'm showing them in the thought process, and then the lighting itself also gives you. It's like in John Wick's house, everything is always dark usually. You know what I'm saying? So or it's always nighttime naturally, but it's like also gives you that feeling. Except for that one moment, I guess where he's like in some secret garage basement or whatever it is.
Yeah,
where
down in his basement. I know. It's already, this is like already finished.
Yeah, it just keeps leaking tobacco leaves. Oh yeah, so my favorite, I think maybe camera movement / shot in this movie is it's right at the end of when they intrude his house and he just kicks the shit out of all of them. But the last guy that he kills in the hallway, they like stumble out and the camera's pulled back to the front of the hallway. You see them in the back, and it's probably like a solid 45-second long shot where they're just fighting.
Yeah.
And the choreography is magnificent. You can see everything. The lighting is spectacular, like you were just saying. But the camera at some point just slowly starts to move, dolly in. Just dollies in slowly, and you see him kill him. But it's like so close in at that point that it's like brutal, and you can feel it.
Exactly
It's the
right.
most
It's like
brutal
it's one of
kill in
those.
the movie
It's one of those shots that it's uncomfortably long. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, it's like uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable to watch like that.
The
kill.
brutal, the
Yeah,
brutal
it's
kill.
the
That's what I'm saying.
brutality
It's
of it.
uncomfortable Except for this sick fuck over here who
Yo,
wants
I
to see
like-
this shit.
I like fights.
But yeah.
Picking apart fight scenes is like my favorite thing to do.
Because you think like he's like on his back and you think he's gonna do something like snap his head or snap his
Yeah.
neck or whatever, but
Give
then
him
he
a
like,
darce.
but yeah,
No.
exactly. But then he flips him over and then he
And-
gets him on.
like
Yeah.
the
The
guy,
way-
the bad guy's holding a knife.
Yeah.
John Wick turns
Turns
it
around
around
and
and
he's
like
like, yep.
tries
Oh,
to
sorry.
stab him, can't do it.
You smack her?
No, I like stabbed her in a way. I was like, no animals were hurt in the filming of this project.
The fight choreography could have just been like a simple turnaround, stab him in the neck, but it's not. It turns around the guy like they're fighting for the position of the knife, and John like kind of jumps on top of him, doesn't quite get the knife into his chest, does it again, goes a little bit in, does it again, goes a little bit further in, does it one more time, and bah!
Then it's silent. But I also think
And then you see the cop.
exactly. I think the shot after that is actually really funny. I think that's a really funny
Yeah.
shot where you see the cop. He comes up and he's talking to John. He's like,
Working on it?
he looks over. He looks slight to the left. And he's like, "You working again?" And he goes,
No,
"Wouldn't it just
sorts
sort
of
of
stuff
it out?"
Yeah.
But it's just like it's an obvious shot. They made the choice to show the dead body in the background. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it creates this very funny, humorous moment in this. It's like it's your moment of relief. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? Because it's
yeah.
like this, all this fighting, all this suspense, and then it's like,
Oh
all
God,
right, we're
not the
gonna-
cop too.
Exactly. Yeah, the cop, and then you find this hilarious
Yeah, the
moment.
cop's
and
like, all right, I'm gonna
It's-
mind my own
yeah,
business.
exactly.
And
Because-
After such a brutal moment, it's nice to have that comedic relief.
But I think also at the same time, I think that also kind of shows that even the law enforcement knows this
Don't-
motherfucker.
yeah.
Don't fuck with him. Don't get in his business.
Just let him be.
Just let it be. Let it
Yeah.
happen. Let it be.
I don't even have anything to toast with, but
Me either.
You have an entire ass bottle, motherfucker. What the fuck are you saying?
once we
you
come back,
pathetic loser ass, no good, stinky ass. Pour your fucking drink, because I'm gonna run out of fucking adjectives to
I was just
describe
gonna
you.
cheers with the glass.
Okay, that fucking works too.
All
you
right.
smart ass motherfucker.
No, I'm very insulted. Cheers.
All right, now give me some more whiskey.
Shut your ass.
Editing! Alright, the editor of this movie, God, please forgive me, because I'm gonna... She's from Iceland. She's a very Icelandic name. I'm pretty sure I'm not even pronouncing her first name correctly. It's Elizabeth Ronald Titor.
What's she billed as? What's she billed as? You said
Elizabeth
Robbins?
Ronalds.
We'll call-
believe. So I don't want to do any disservice to you because you're a fucking talented ass editor. You've done a lot of
Yeah.
stuff, but I just can't pronounce your name because I'm an American and they don't teach us school.
We'll call her Liz.
But am I wrong though?
I know a little bit of pre-algebra.
Yeah.
What's that?
Don't.
Okay,
Do you
Let's
really-
just say that our main form of language is English, and they don't teach us most.
That's
of it.
American.
Yeah.
No, so yeah, she is a powerhouse editor. She's done a lot of stuff, not so much mainstream stuff like John Wick, but she was the editor of a very not so well known movie that no one was really looking forward to called Deadpool 2. You guys ever heard of that?
No.
Yeah, no.
I should
I've never heard
actually
that
also point out that the cinematographer was cinematographer for that as well.
either. Yeah, so obviously there's a lot of crossover between Deadpool 2 and John Wick because a lot of the people worked on it, which is probably
Yeah.
why I love Deadpool 2 so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Wow, no, she kills it as editor in this. Everything's just seamless.
I feel like we've kind of touched on like a ton of editing things already without really giving her props, especially with the fight scenes and how
for
seamless they are.
sure, for sure. Yeah, so kind of going off that, there's inevitably there's going to be at some point when you're filming the fight, a segment of the fight in one angle, and then you have to go switch everything around, put the camera in a different angle, and film the fight from that angle. But like at some point you're going to cut in the middle of a punch, and then you have to go to the next camera angle, and for the sake of continuity, you have to find where that punch is
Yeah.
in like about pretty much perfectly where, let's say Keanu Reeves stopped in the last scene when you cut, and pick it up right in the exact same position. Otherwise, it's going to be like a weird ass
Yeah.
punch,
Mhm.
different angle, like jump. It's just not gonna look good. And
What?
whoa! No, and the fights flow seamlessly. The fights flow seamlessly. God almighty, take this shit away from me. The fights flow seamlessly. But I will say there's one little itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini little tiny bit where I've always noticed this from the very first time I saw it. There's in the Red Circle Club when John gets thrown off of the second level balcony and onto the ground.
Mm-hmm.
You see the camera follows him falling. It's a continuous shot from him being thrown, hitting the ground, but it's actually not a continuous shot because obviously you can't
Actually
realistically do that. You can, but then you're gonna see like the pad that he lands on, and it's just gonna ruin the entire.
Or
shot.
the blood.
Or the fact that he's just gonna
Die.
have a fucking broken spine. But like there is that small little like instant cut that you can see right before he hits the ground from when the stuntman did fall from the second level onto a pad. They cut it, I don't know, when he's like 6-7 feet off the ground, and they probably had like a platform that they edited out in post, and he fell, the rest of the way onto like a not so,
hard marble floor.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But that is the only bad thing I can. It's not even bad. It's just like
it's the only thing that seems not quite as
not so
realistic
seamless.
As the
absolutely. But I mean, the fight scenes between the cinematography and the editing is. I said it earlier. I will dare say it again. It redefined action movies as we know them. It blows me away. Elizabeth, I'm sorry I can't pronounce your name. You killed it as editor. Really, you did.
Yeah.
Take that as an apology,
Yeah, I'm sorry I can't pronounce your name. I'm an American. They don't teach at school, as I said earlier. But yeah, you killed it as editor. What do you guys think of Miss Elizabeth? Also, this is the first female editor we've broken down, so...
True. I was thinking about that with the last video that we did. I was like, there's a lot of dudes that we're talking about in these films. It's good to see a little diversity in terms of behind the camera when it comes to putting together incredible films. But yeah, the editing of this film is incredible. I don't really have much to say about it besides it's incredibly seamless. We've said this before. We've said that
in every single video.
Well, you know what I'm going to say. I do want to say. But first, I'm going to say we edit these videos that we make on iMovie, and even that's incredibly difficult sometimes.
It is a pain in the ass.
Not as painful as actually uploading it, because YouTube, we got to work through some things, you and me, YouTube, seriously, because we're not on the same page about upload speed. You think And
YouTube, I want you to know this, alright?
No one cares!
He's like, I want you to know this, alright? Please delete those videos I made when I was 13 years old.
Please. They were singing videos, and you do not want to hear the singing videos. I'll tell you that right now.
Everybody, please look up his singing video page. It's your boy, Singing Brian Bob. They're awful. Anyways, I haven't seen them, but I imagine. Now, alright. Now, another thing that I like to say, good editing is when you don't really think about the editing.
Yep.
And the only scene in this film that I think about the editing is the scene that you just talked about when he's falling from the thing, because it is something I've noticed before.
Right.
It could have been a little bit more smooth, but I'm guessing that I don't want to put all the blame on the editor for that. That could have been also on the cinematographer. It could have been a number of different things, so I'm not going to put the blame of the editor on that. Another shot that, it's not one that bugs me, but it's just one that sticks out. I'm surprised they went that path with the editing, is when John Wick's finally about to kill Theon, and the first bullet comes through the window and kills his friend playing the PlayStation, and they did it in 20 frames per second slow motion. It was like, and it just looked very 1980s-ish. It kind of stuck out like a sore thumb from the rest of the film.
I agree. I would agree. That's something I never even thought of, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
well,
I didn't think about it until last night, and I've seen the film about a million times. But when we rewatched it last night, it stuck out to me.
I think it would have been so much more cooler if he was just playing Call of Duty and all of a sudden.
Yeah.
That would have been so much cooler.
Definitely.
Yeah. So.
But clearly, we're not as credentialed as Elizabeth.
especially right after.
Especially if you watch any of our videos, you can tell how
Stupid
poorly
we are.
edited they are. We're sorry! We're actors, alright?
And hypocrites!
Actually, we're only hypocrites. We're not even actors.
Yeah, I've acted before. I act like
I've
like
acted
these guys. Were you about to...
I was about to say the same fucking thing.
Anyway, that's a whole different thing where we say the same...
We've
kill
been
it.
friends for a long time.
Anyway.
Elizabeth!
Christopher McGuire!
Anyway, I think picking
What are we doing?
Get this away from me! Going off of what you guys were saying, I think that like the small little things. I feel like when you're talking about that very specific scene where he's falling down, I think that specifically you can't fault an editor so much.
Yeah, it's
for,
such a small thing.
Well, yeah, it's such a small thing, but it's also you're alterating like reality. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
and it's like obviously like when they were filming this, there was a pad there. You know what I'm saying? There was so it's like she had to go through and like you got to remove this. You got to. It's a fine line that it's like hard to.
It's hard to really nitpick. I wanted to be subjective about it, and I wanted to find something that stuck out to me, especially since that is the one thing in the movie, editing-wise, that sticks out to me. I felt like I had to mention it.
It's not
exactly.
like
it's not like it's gonna be. It's not like it takes away from the movie.
Yeah,
sure,
no,
it's just something that catches your eye if you
are really being.
I kind of like have a knowledge of how movies are edited and made.
Right.
And especially if you're going to do a breakdown of a film. And
Exactly.
You have to be
exactly. Catch your eye.
So yeah,
but I don't think anybody watched this movie and was like,
This
"Oh
was
wow,
an
he
editing
didn't
nightmare."
actually dive, he didn't belly flop for 14 feet down onto a marble floor."
What a fucking loser!
Yeah,
I do that every Friday night.
Yeah, I think it's
I'm gonna
definitely.
do it right now.
No.
But I think it definitely is one of those things where it's like, yes, it's amazing editing, but like even if the small thing that is like I guess that you could say something about, even then it's like you got to give her some slack for. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And but yeah, also going off of that the shot of like the PlayStation playing the PlayStation, I think like that sticks out as like a sore thumb. If I remember correctly, you guys have seen it more than me, but like is that the only slow-mo shot in the film?
There are other slow-mo shots, but it's really only with like Keanu walking away from an explosion.
Right, and this is the only one that's done by like frames per second.
Yeah.
Where like it's like it doesn't seem like
It was
if it was just like a
it's not like super
it was like a
long slow-mo. It's like it's it's too short to be a slow-mo kind of thing.
It seems like a YouTube video back in like 2006, like the kind and the effects they've been
More
using.
like
And I think
2007.
Yeah.
Sure. Shout out Elizabeth.
And I think it'd be
Elizabeth.
I think it'd be better on timing though, also too. After you like as soon as because I think he says a line where he's like, "Why are you playing PlayStation right now?" Then
Would you please turn off that fucking video game?
and then then he gets shot. Like I think that would have an overall like a better effect.
Right,
you know,
and
that kind of
I agree. I think it would have been a lot cooler if it was slow mo. It would have been cooler.
Yeah.
If it was like regular slow mo, but I think it would have been a lot cooler if it was just like a.
Yep.
Like,
Exactly.
But I
Yeah,
also
yeah.
want to say, the reason that the choice was made to make the shot like that was probably because of the way it was filmed.
Yeah.
Because I imagine that the first instinct would be to make it the fast.
Okay.
I feel like that was done intentionally because every other person you see getting taken out was done like that. I imagine something was done while filming.
Also because it was his best friend.
Yeah, that too.
The best friend didn't really get like any
Got
screen
my
time
shine.
at all. But
He did get another bottle that one scene,
Yeah.
but that's like it.
That's true.
Exactly.
Uh,
And he drives like the getaway car.
And he tries to get away.
I think in like both scenes, like the very beginning scene, right?
Maybe-
Not the getaway
maybe.
the car.
I mean,
He
that's
drives
just
like
not-
the car in the
the
very
car
beginning when they're at the
yeah,
gas
yeah,
station. Yeah. But I think overall though, like again, like you guys are saying, seamless. I mean, as actors, we have been a part of many student films. No shade to
He and
student
I had to
films.
kiss in a student,
Yeah.
a student film.
But we.
And they practiced way too. That's true.
It was
even
rehearsal.
even before they were cast in the film, they were practicing. Let's just
Even
say.
after the film was done, we were
We were
practicing.
Exactly, but
Anyway.
I think like we have experienced like a lot of continuity errors, or we've seen that in a
and
thing.
you notice it.
Exactly,
Right.
you
Yeah.
notice it, and this is what shows like high quality professional editing in a real big feature film is that you have someone that literally if you're watching, like you said, good editing is editing that you don't think about, and if you're watching a film and you're not thinking about this shot, that shot, that shot, unless you're doing a movie breakdown.
Sure.
you're gonna be,
It's
but you're like
immersive.
immersive
Like,
is
when
where
you
you're
really
immersing, like
immerse-
you're
yeah,
just
right.
watching the film and you're not thinking about anything else, but you're literally watching this. It's like you're escaping from the reality that you're like in, that you're sitting down watching the movie. You're watching something and you're invested. And if you're not thinking about how they're shooting this together, you're like, then it's perfect editing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you're able to get through point A at the beginning of the story to point Z at the end of the story, and not have to think about, oh, how did this go and this go together, and you're just like seamlessly watching the movie.
Also, I kind of want to touch off of what you kind of just said. As like a creative, as a filmmaker, we can't watch movies like people who aren't filmmakers can watch them.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
Yeah.
even though there are some movies where I sit down and like, you know what, I'm just gonna like watch this and have fun and not even like really think about it.
Yeah.
I'm always like looking at the acting and I'm always looking at the cinematography and being like, damn.
We almost overanalyze these films.
Exactly. Especially like
I'm like,
those-
yeah, I was like, I'm always like, damn, that was good. Even though like I don't even really like let it affect my thinking afterwards. I'm just like,
you just have
I'm
more of
always
appreciation.
watching. Yeah.
You have a more of
Yeah,
appreciation.
and
for
sometimes
the moment.
I am kind of jealous of people who don't do film because they can watch movies and always just like enjoy it for what it is.
Exactly,
And
yeah.
I always have to be. I'm not always analytical of movies,
Yeah.
but I'm always thinking about movies while
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
watching that because I'm so invested in them.
Yeah, exactly.
I love movies.
I
I,
also
love movies.
I also want to point out that every other film that we've reviewed on this channel, the first time we watched them was when we were like a bit younger. This one we were already in college.
Yeah.
We hadn't committed to majoring
But we
in
were-
what we majored in,
Yeah.
but we had already,
Pretty
dipped our
much
toes
decided
into
that
it.
that's
And
what
we,
we were gonna
do.
So when we first saw this, we already kind of had that analytical mindset, and
Yeah.
same with you because you first saw it last
Yeah,
night.
exactly.
So-
Yeah, and I think, and just like you're saying that, like you're kind of jealous of people, and I've always had these conversations with like friends of mine. That I mean, I feel like every friend that's like outside of like who does like filmmaking or acting or anything in like this kind of art form. They're always, they're always asking you like, who do you think's the best actor? Who do you think this like? And then they'll have like very like far off opinions on things because like they are looking at it just from a very
Broad,
expanded,
yeah.
broad view. And I'm like, no. Listen, I'm gonna tell you why this performance is
Specifically,
amazing. Like,
specifically.
let me tell you why this is perfect because we study like what this is as a
Yeah.
craft. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
we know exactly what goes into
This
the
is
thought
not up for
process.
debate.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like you're saying, oh, it's not good because of this very specific reason. It's because you're looking at a very broad view.
Yeah.
But, like if you're looking at I'm like, listen, like you don't have to think about the entire movie in general. You got to think about like why this specific moment or this specific person is portraying this character in this very specific moment.
Right, and so like, kind of, I mean, it's just like when you ask someone like, "What do you think of this person's performance in this movie?" They're like, "Oh, it's good,"
Yeah.
and I'm just like, "That's it. That's all you have to say
Yep.
is it's good." You don't think it's like
Generalized
it's good because of this and this and this. You know, so like that is kind of. I'm very happy that I can like just point out specific moments that, and I've always been able to do this. Point out specific moments in movies that I love. But I'm also jealous of people who can like watch a really, really, really shitty movie and still enjoy it
Yeah.
because they're not so invested like we are.
Right.
Like The Usual Suspects, for instance.
All right. Anyway, let's go ahead and raise a toast.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
Lizzie, as we would call her.
Yes,
in
I'm sorry I
America.
can't pronounce your
Because
name.
we'd fuck it up.
I took 2 sips very close together and it's really.
So we're gonna talk about stunts a little bit more. It just has to be done, right? The
With
whole
this movie, it has to be.
has to be redefining a genre. So what should we say about? So we're not sure who the specific stunt choreographers are, but we have a.
Honestly, I couldn't find any on the stunt list on the IMDb. But considering the fact that David Leitch and Chad Stahelski, who are both stuntmen and have stunt choreographed for movies before, I'd be very surprised if it wasn't just them that did it.
They probably
Yeah.
just fight each other and say, "All right, guys, this is good. Now do it."
Yeah.
That's really
All
what
right,
it
so
is.
you see what we just did? Go ahead and do work.
Yeah,
for me.
exactly.
You
Right.
get one take.
Right. I do know that the director was not doing any stunts for Keanu at this point because he
no.
is
He's pretty old.
a lot older than
Yeah.
than he is. The stunts in this movie are insane. A lot, and when it comes to stunts in films, a lot of it does have to do with the cinematography and the editing, which we've already touched on a lot. But also, if you're going to, well,
She's always entering and exiting whenever she pleases, like the queen she is.
It's either in or out, honey. Which
Yeah.
way are you gonna go? That's what my mother would always tell me.
Do you want to be in the video, or do you not?
So with a great cinematographer and with a great editor, it's easy to make these scenes seamless. But if you don't have incredible stunts going on, they're not going to flow as seamlessly, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah.
Because the stunts in this film, you can tell a ton of work went into these. I would say, when you think about a show like King Lear or Hamlet, you think about a ton of work going into character building and the whole process of what drives this character to reach this emotion at this point. What drives, with this, I feel like the same amount of time was put into weapons training, combat training, and choreography.
If not more.
If not more. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's what kind of sets us apart from more traditional classic films. But I feel like it also sets it apart in how well it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a movie like John Wick, where there's not really anything else going on except for the stunts better be pretty fucking spectacular.
Oh yeah.
And they are. I mean, growing up, I always loved a good fight scene in a movie. But, I mean, like, I never really paid attention to utility stunts like car wrecks or getting hit by a car or anything like that. I never really paid attention to it. I always paid attention to the fight scenes. And this movie took me back to being like a 8-year-old kid watching GoldenEye or something, and just being like, I want to fight. Like, I want to do this thing that, these guys do in the movie, like Indiana Jones. I wanted to be like Indiana Jones as a kid, and now I'm just like, watching movies like this take me back to a time when life was so simple, and I'm just like, man, how cool would it be to be able to do this?
Yeah.
And now, like, I'm on the career path that, like, makes me able to do this.
Right.
So, stunts will always be a very special place cinematically for me, because it played such a big part in, like, who I was as a kid. Any time I played outside, we'd always pretend like we were Jedis or something and fight with lightsabers or swords or whatever. I am a nerd, so I'm not even going to take offense to that. But, I love these movies because, in a way, it does make me feel like a little kid again watching spectacular movies, spectacular stunts in movies. So I think that's why I like John Wick, why I love John Wick so much.
Right, and as he mentioned, you and me both have this affinity for action films. Something happens whenever we watch a really good action film together. And if something incredibly awesome happens, we both kind of get into this, like...
We kind of like...
Giddy state.
It's like stuff you see in, like, parody sketches, caricatures of actual people. That's us watching action films.
Okay, so neither one of them were present, and this is actually during John Wick 2, because Tyler, our resident writing expert, he and I saw John Wick 2 together, but there's one specific moment in John Wick 2, I'm not going to say what, but there's a moment when Tyler and I were just like in the theater, just going like, we were really like convulsing in our seats because we were just like, this is incredible.
I definitely think that what I want to definitely touch on, because I know like there's the gunfights, there's the the combat scenes where they're just fighting, fist fighting and stuff. But let's talk about how many cars were freaking destroyed in this film.
Yeah,
just like how you see John Wick.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was thinking.
I definitely think like that just goes in, like, there's so many different shots with the cars that I think that are badass, and it gives you I feel like you can't have an action film without some car chase, without some car demolition. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
and
no.
I feel like
No, you're absolutely correct.
because it creates such a large sound, it creates such an impact, especially that moment where it's like his car that gets flipped off the edge after he's
John Wick, where they could have done that digitally. They could have recreated that on a computer.
Yeah.
But why? Like, what fun is that? Let's fucking get a car and destroy it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Drop it off.
Drop it off like a 30
If you
foot.
got if you got the money, might as well go ahead and
Drop it off a 30-foot ledge. We don't fucking
I think
care.
that
They
is-
probably did it like 10 times.
They did it, yeah, because I remember that the one where like John is like he's hitting that one car and it flies off.
Yeah.
With all the people in the escalator or whatever, and then he has his car like when he's like in it and they're like T-boning
He's
him.
gonna get pushed
Yeah,
off by
he pushed
Vigo.
it off, yeah. And I feel like that, like, those are something, like, I think those are very specific, like, high-risk stunts, I feel like, because, like, usually you have to have the actor in there while you kind of, like, there's something happening, and it's just always, I feel like it's, you know, on set, like, that is always, like, moments where they're, like, very nitpicky on details on
Yep,
it.
exactly.
Because it is such a high-risk thing. I mean, because you can do, like, a gunfight, but, like, everyone knows that it's a fake gun on
It's
set.
all CGI.
And it's all
now.
CGI kind of thing, but I feel like with cars, you really have to, like, damage them. You got to hit them. You got to make that actual impact. There's no way to kind of. I mean, you can probably
Utility stunts.
exactly. You can probably edit the sound of it in there, and they probably do to enhance the sound. But as far as the actual crash itself, like I mean, it's
Right.
it's
A
different.
lot of
That big
practical.
moment, yeah.
A lot of practical stunts were done in this film.
Yeah,
Which I love.
yeah.
I love
Oh, it's
practicality, which is why Christopher Nolan
Yeah.
is like one of my favorite directors because he's so practical.
which we will get onto eventually. A
Yeah.
lot of films by Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think practicality is one of the best things that can happen when it comes to stunts.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
this film had a lot of practical stunts, stunt sequences, and it was captured beautifully by the rest of the team.
Yeah.
So once again, shout out to the whole team.
So it's like it's a collaboration. It's like a team effort
Definitely.
at the end.
I mean,
Should we raise a toast to the stunts in general?
Yeah, but like now that we're like really like breaking this movie down, it's like really making me realize how much I love and appreciate this movie.
Yeah.
Because I've said this before, because you can appreciate a movie you don't like, but I love this movie.
Right.
And I appreciate this movie so much because of what it has done for action movies since, and what action movies are going to become now
Because
that
of
John
it.
Wick is a thing.
Yep.
So
And I want to say also real quick, as we've done a few films ourselves, you know, and if you're filming a film that in all that happens in the film is you're sitting on the couch, somebody rings the doorbell, you get up, you open the door, you say hello, they say hello back, you say goodbye, they say goodbye back, you close the door, you sit down. That could take hours to film.
Yeah. Oh.
You want to get different
Literally.
shots. You want to get different angles.
Yeah.
When you're filming complex
Yeah.
fight sequences that have been planned to a T,
Mm-hmm.
there's just
You can't even tell. Like,
You-
you probably spend
yeah.
the entire days.
And
on
also,
that. Weeks.
I feel like the stunt
a
choreographer.
regular day on a film set is at least 12 hours.
Right.
At least 12.
I'm guessing they had some long days, some long nights,
Work,
and some reshoots and some extended schedules.
Yeah.
Can I say one last thing?
No, you
And then
can't.
I promise I will not speak for the rest of the video.
You can't.
Okay. So during the day or the days that they filmed the top level fight of the club scene,
Oh, yeah.
before John Wick gets, tossed off the balcony, and we had that really bad, really shitty piece of editing.
Yeah.
I'm
Lizzie.
kidding. I'm kidding.
Shout out
I'm kidding.
Elizabeth.
I'm kidding.
Spell your name right.
Keanu Reeves had a 104-degree fever with the flu, and he learned and memorized it that day, went to set, filmed it all night with a 104-degree fever.
Damn.
Having learned it that day, perfected it. Perfected it. Not even just like learned it, perfected it that day.
Yeah.
And I remember being a star of a show called Pirate's Voyage. For 3 days.
Nobody cares.
3 days, I performed with the flu with a 101-degree fever, and I thought I was badass. And then I learned that he did that with a 104-degree fever, and then I felt like a fucking pathetic piece of shit.
Which he is.
I am.
Yeah. Once again, shout out to Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Shout out to the stunt choreographers of this film. Shout out to the stunt doubles, if there were that many. Shout out to all the actors that did their stunts. Just
Shout out to the whole team.
you made the film.
Oh.
We're gonna get into our overall impressions of the film. I'm gonna go off first impressions, so it works really well with you.
Yeah.
So let's real quick hear your first impression of John Wick. I know it's something that's been hyped up to you for years, so it was a lot to live
Yeah.
up to. What did you think when you first watched this?
I mean, I will say that I have tried watching this film one other time, and I actually fell asleep because of other
Influences.
Exactly. And I fell asleep, and I remember like I only got a little bit of the gist of John Wick, and I feel like everyone also got the same gist. When you don't know John Wick, all you really know is that this guy is like this killer, and he has this dog, and that's really
He's
what
killing
I, yeah,
people because of his
because
dog.
of his dog. Yeah,
This
exactly.
dog.
Yeah, exactly. Which I would do, so I understand his motivation.
You've
Which I
never
would also
actually. You probably saw her in the Baby Driver sketch, but I have a cat, and I would do the same thing for my cat.
Yeah,
Her name's
exactly.
Snickers. She's the sweetest, most cutest love of my life ever.
But yeah, exactly. So, but I will say that, like, you know, once we kind of sat down and watched this, you know, because, and I feel like my willingness to watch this movie at the end of the day, because normally I'd probably be like, oh gosh, all right, here we go. But I think because the past couple of movies you guys have shown me that actually have delivered, I'm like, you know what, let me actually sit down and watch this movie. I'm really interested. They obviously care enough about this movie to want to sit me down and
Right.
watch it. So I went in with a very open view on what it was going to be. And, you know, it did deliver. It very did. I like I said, we've talked about everything from, you know, every different aspect of this film.
Right.
And I think it definitely did. I watched the movie very seamlessly. You know, there was never a point in the time where I was getting bored or tired or anything other than the movie itself. I was actually really invested in the movie. Really excited to see kind of just what the ending was going to be like, and just I was drawn in the entire time. So, you know, I definitely give it a recommend to watch. You know,
Sure.
'cause, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, and I'm really excited to see the next
The
couple
se-
ones. Yeah, I'm
exactly.
really excited.
I'm
see
excited
the
to show them
next
to you.
one. Yeah.
Do you have? Should we do like his rating right now?
Yeah.
Yes,
go
it's
ahead
out
and
of
do
10,
your
right?
Out of 10.
Out
yeah.
of 10.
So you
Okay,
can,
so
and you can do
you
decimals.
first. Oh, I can do
the
decimals.
tens,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, yeah. So, I'm nervous being the first one rating this movie because I feel like they might have different ones totally.
It's
than me.
alright. Yeah.
But because I don't know what your guys' normal scale is, you know what I'm
Sure.
saying? So I definitely, because I'm the type of person when I look at movies and if I'm ever gonna give it a rating, if I like it, you automatically get like above a 6. Like I
Sure.
feel like if I
Right,
like
right.
it, because it's like, and if I'm gonna recommend it to you, it's right around a 7. And since I liked enough, the number that is popping out to me is a 7.8.
7.8.
7.8.
I'd say
out of
that's
10.
I'd say that's
Yeah.
fair.
Absolutely. So we viewed this together for the first time freshman year in college.
That was 6 years ago.
You didn't have to say
That
that.
was 6 fucking.
You did have.
Yo,
to
that
say
just
repeat
hit
it.
me. That was 6 years
I
ago.
know,
Yeah.
Wow, we're getting old.
We've
Yeah.
been graduating from college for over 2 years at this point.
To give you some context about how long ago this was,
We're old!
he had hair.
I had hair back then.
A little
And
too
Woola
fresh.
didn't have dandruff.
Yeah, she did.
Willa was 2 and she actually was cute.
Hey. So yeah, the first time we viewed this, it was for Tyler's birthday. Tyler's actually right inside the apartment right now.
Hey, Tyler.
He's actually not out there like we thought he was.
Okay.
Like
That
he
was
usually
awkward.
is. Like we said, going into this film, when we first saw the trailer, I had kind of like a skeptical feeling about
I
it.
remember laughing at the trailer because I thought
But-
it looked so bad.
Me too, yeah. But when we started to see reviews, we were like, maybe we should give this a shot. Like the early reviews, and we saw it opening weekend, I think, for Tyler's
Probably
birthday.
because Tyler's birthday, I want to say, was like on a Saturday that year. Movies only
yeah.
come out on Friday.
And we all went and saw it. You, me, and Simkis went and saw it. We went to this film with a very open mindset, and we ended up absolutely loving it. We weren't biased towards any way, but since then we've watched it about 1,000,000 times.
This is one of my favorite action movies. Probably minus like if we're excluding the John Wick sequels, this is my favorite action movie. This is probably my favorite.
I say when it comes
This
to
is
pure
my favorite action trilogy because I don't really know of any other
right.
action trilogy.
When it comes to pure action, I would be right there with you.
Yeah.
I have my ranking. Do you have yours?
Sure.
All right. And 3, 2, 1. 8.7.
Oh, we're getting closer and
Close.
closer every time.
I think we both gave Usual Suspects a 10,
Well, yeah, this.
but that's
Yeah.
a
But
good.
like that's because you and I like how it means, how much it means to
exactly.
us.
But I feel
Literally,
like
the
either
name
way,
of their entire thing is
The-
based on
yeah. I also don't think
D.K.K.S.
we didn't
Productions.
quite point out in the video. Dean Keaton, Kaiser Soze. That's what
King
D.K.K.S. means.
Soze from The Usual Suspects. So
Right.
Brian Singer, Christopher McQuire. You gave us our production company name, so thank you very much.
I feel like an 8.7 is originally I was like maybe 8.5. I think when this film first came out, it was still at the phase when I was ranking movies on IMDb. I think I gave it a 9 out of 10. But I would say 8.7 is pretty accurate. In my, if I'm talking about my favorite movies to watch repeatedly, this is definitely one of those that would be in the top 20
Yeah.
It's one that sticks with you. It's revolutionary. It's groundbreaking. It's incredible.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, we always talk about movies that are, like, feel-good movies, right?
Mhm.
Like The Goonies or The Princess Bride. Movies that we continually go back to feel good. John Wick is one of those movies to us, even though it is not a feel-good movie.
No, definitely not.
It takes me back. It takes me to a place. It takes me to a place where I don't have to worry about anything. It takes me to a place where I can just be like, I'm watching something that I personally enjoy, and that is enough.
Right.
So I think there's nothing that takes away, those 1.2 points for me at all. This movie's incredible. This movie's redefined a genre.
Yeah. But
I have to be subjective about it though.
those 1.2 points are reserved for other films.
For movies that, like Usual Suspects, which we both gave a 10. So
Yeah.
it's just I love this movie. I love the sequels, which is a very, very rare thing for me to say.
And with each one of these, we're like, there's no way it's going to live up to the last one. And then we watch it, we're like,
And,
oh
like,
my
it
god.
completely blew the last one out of the water. Then we watched John Wick 3 and we're like, well,
Holy crap.
2 kind of sucks compared to 3, which is not true. But
2 still rocks. 3 is incredible.
3 is the best.
Well, we'll get into those later on down the road.
We're not going to do a whole trilogy, through and through because you're going to get bored.
Right.
So
but for now, should we raise a toast to John Wick?
Yeah. I might be staying here tonight.
This movie requires a lot of toast. Let's just say that. To John Wick.
John Wick.
So now that we've gotten that out of the way, Mr. Keaton, what's on the menu next time around?
Okay, so this is actually a movie that I saw. It's going to be a little bit of a speech show. You might want to fucking stop. This is a movie that I saw very recently that just completely blew me the fuck away, and that you actually have not seen yet. So I'm pretty sure you probably know what I'm talking about. But the movie that we're talking about next week is Honey Boy.
Oh, are you talking about the Shia LaBeouf?
Which was written
by
say it with me, Hollywood superstar Shia LaBeouf. No, this movie, the movie Honey Boy is probably one of the best performances from any actor or actress, that I've ever seen.
Damn.
The movie means the movie obviously meant a lot to Shia LaBeouf when he wrote it.
Yeah.
And if you look it up, I'm not going to go into it a whole lot right now because I don't want to really spoil what this movie is for them. But this movie, I watched it. I watched a video about it, like Shia LaBeouf on Jimmy Kimmel. They were talking about it. It was 1 a.m. in the morning, so I looked it up on Amazon. It was free. It was an hour and a half, so I stayed up till 2:30 a.m. just to watch this movie. And boy, am I glad that I did, because holy crap, it's incredible. So, Honey Boy is what we're going to talk about next week. Are you looking forward to it, mother?
I'm excited because this is the first film that I'm going to be reviewing on this channel that I haven't seen a million and a half times.
So that's going to be like that's another dichotomy that we're really going to have.
Right.
A movie I've seen that you haven't, that I'm really pumped about.
And this will also be a film, because every other film we've seen in here, though, you've also seen like a million times. This will be your second time viewing it.
This won't be my second time, yeah.
This is going to be a fresh take, a good take. He is,
a
of course,
first
uninvited.
Woola, you can come if you want, honey.
Woola will most likely make an appearance.
Probably.
In the meantime, I'm excited for that. This has been a fun time, gentlemen. Special shout out to our
had a good
new.
time. Thank you for having me.
He was sort of in the Usual Suspects review for like a split second.
I was.
Our resident dickless fat ass expert, Briar Bomb. Hey.
So be looking for him in future videos. He will make brief cameos, very brief, because
we're never going
we
to
don't
have him
want to
on the
be
show again.
around him.
Yeah.
But for now, let's take 0 more toasts.
I'm
no more
in
toasts.
Spirit.
Go ahead and just sign us off. Sign us off.
This is Ian F. Scott and
Charlie Cannon.
And well, I guess we'll mention
Briar Box.
And Woola Boggs signing out for the final time. You'll never see us again. Fuck you. Well, okay, I'm gonna do that again. This is Ian F. Scott and
Charlie Cannon
and
Briar Box
and
Woola Boggs.
Signing off. Until next time, thank you very much for joining us This is D.K.K.S. Productions Movie Breakdown!